Welcome to Sunrise Daily this beautiful morning. Well, we wanted to bring you another beautiful city, but for now, this suffice for us. CMS in Lagos. Well, you are aware there is a lot of strike ongoing right now. We understand that the Ikeja Secretariat is shut down and a number of other places, as you heard from the reports earlier on our program, the morning brief. Now, so some of the businesses in this area as well are likely going to be shut down today due to that strike, and that is why we're showing you this today. Now, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what you are expecting. You may also want to give us an inkling of what is it like in your area, what is happening where you are. You know where all of our communication links are. You know, we are on X at Sunrise Daily now. We're on IG as well, Sunrise Daily _. You can just find out where we are right there, and you can give us a beep, send a message, and of course our email address sunrisedaily@channelstv.com is also there. So let's know how it's going in your area. But this beautiful skyline is that of Lagos City this morning, and the weather in Lagos is looking something in the region of 27 degrees right now, with humidity at 90%. So again, I say good morning. It's a beautiful Monday morning. It really is not the kind of day you want to wake up to. The first thing you are waking up to is scarce fuel, fuel stations shutting down. We understand that as at this very moment, the judiciary workers in the judiciary are also have also joined in this strike, and by that we're talking about JUSUN, which has also decided to join the strike this morning, and that is the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria. NUPENG has joined, and a number of others. From the report we also heard from Ibadan in Oyo State, teachers have also joined this strike, and it's looking like everyone is going to align with this strike. So exactly how is it in your area? You may also want us to know. Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde. Well, my colleagues are going to be joining me shortly, but in the meantime, let's take you through some of the papers. I'll be bringing you the papers in a little while, but just to give you a heads up of some of the things that you will find on the front pages of the papers this morning, it's all about the strike. I mean, there is no going back about that. The papers will be with us in a moment or two, but just to let you know that most of the papers this morning are really looking at the strike, particularly in the light of the fact that the National Assembly made an effort, a last-ditch effort, to save the situation. This is what we are having right now in some parts of Nigeria. And you see that we understand that the Secretariat in Lagos is shut down. This is some other part of Lagos that's also been shut down. In fact, we understand that I think it's the TUC shut down a particular gate at the Secretariat, saying no worker can go in or out. Everyone is aware of this now. What is heartbreaking is that students said they were not even aware there was going to be a strike. Of course, quite a number of us have received calls from various angles asking whether or not there is a strike that is going on anywhere. This is an example of what we have right this very moment. How long this is going to last? I guess we're going to have to wait to see. If you look at the front pages of all of the papers, they are all talking about the minimum wage. One of the papers is talking about, I don't want to give you any spoiler yet. One of the papers is talking about the economic risks of this strike. We have quite a number of papers for you right now. And so we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll hopefully be able to take you through the papers. Our guest on this conversation, the next conversation, beg your pardon, is on standby. Do stay with us.
There's a lot of fear in the journey towards building wealth, especially in an ever-changing economy like ours. And you know why that is? It's because navigating the world of investments without facts and insights is like walking in the dark. But that fear stops now. Opportunities open up to you when you have a trusted guide. Someone with over 28 years of experience advising individuals, corporates, and governments to achieve their dreams through strategic and well-timed investments. That someone is AfriInvest. The journey of 1,000 miles is easier when you have a trusted guide and partner who knows the way. So, take the first step. AfriInvest. Simplifying investments, creating wealth.
The journey to success is not always smooth. There are rough patches on the path to accomplishment. The struggle continues until solution appears that launches you to the world of your dreams, protecting, securing, and ensuring that you reach your goals. At International Energy Insurance, we know that the journey to actualizing your dreams could be tough, but we are always there to support you and help you prepare for the unexpected. International Energy Insurance is a Nuremberger company now positioned to serve you better. International Energy Insurance PLC. Energy to care.
Represented by the Vice President of the Federal Republic.
The Vice President, with his team, arrived at the Naval Dockyard on Victoria Island, Lagos, for the opening ceremony of the 2024 Naval Week and the 68th anniversary of the Nigerian Navy. He makes his way straight to the commissioning ground of 2 helicopters and 3 naval ships.
To commission these ships and the naval helicopters.
The 3 ships include 2 32-meter fast patrol boats and 1 35-meter hydrographic offshore survey vessel, as well as 2 A109SP helicopters. After a brief inspection of the ongoing construction of Seaward Defense Boats 4 and 5, Vice President Shettima flags off the Regional Maritime Exercise REMEX with 17 ships, including 5 from Brazil, China, Cameroon, Ghana, and Togo, participating. This is meant to strengthen the cooperative efforts at tackling maritime crimes on the Gulf of Guinea.
And it gives me great pleasure.
At the opening ceremony of the International Maritime Conference, part of activities for the Navy Week, the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, says the platform provides an opportunity to dialogue on how to cooperatively enhance security on the Gulf of Guinea.
It is believed that this conference will provide a veritable platform for us to collectively address and develop strategies that will help us address Africa's inherent security challenges arising and militating against the development of our blue economy.
The Governor of Lagos State, in his remark delivered by the Deputy Governor, pays tribute to all who have paid the supreme price to keep the maritime space safe, thereby bringing stability to Lagos State.
Our ports are the lifeline of not just our state, but the entire country, facilitating trades and contributing significantly to our GDP.
Vice President Kashim Shettima highlights the imperative of the blue economy and therefore sues for the protection of the maritime environment.
The wealth of Africa can never be realized unless we prioritize the protection and development of our maritime environment. The blue economy is estimated to be worth more than $1.5 trillion per year globally. and is projected to increase to US $15.5 trillion by 2050.
Finally, the Vice President takes a tour of the exhibition ground where indigenous military hardware manufacturers put up their various work. While the theme of this year's conference is promoting the blue economy in Africa through international cooperation on maritime security, the place of technology in winning the war against all forms of security threats cannot be overemphasized. Chris Alems, Channels Television News.
Well, we're going into that conversation right this very moment, but don't forget that one of the institutions that contend with security is also the Navy, and that's why that conversation is ongoing. But just a quick trip to Abuja. Chamberlain and my other colleague are there right now. Well, Chamberlain, good morning. How is this strike starting out in Abuja?
Well, yes, good morning, everybody, and it's, well, what do we know? Quite a number of places already hit by this strike. There was a lot of, some confusion initially yesterday because several people thought that that intervention by National Assembly was going to stave off this strike, but no, this morning, even places that I didn't think were going to join, Kayla was just updating that this morning, well, they have also joined.
I mean,
and it was
I'm actually taking my time to really look at the visuals, but the truth is, the food and beverage people.
Oh boy,
the food and beverage people are on strike as well. The strike is everywhere, and it's not something that we're ready for. I don't think I know you got fuel yesterday. I had to be on the queue yesterday as well to get some fuel, just in case. So this industrial action, and I was listening earlier and very correct. It's not going to be, there's no protests. This is industrial action. So stock up on food. We don't know how long this is going to last. We heard the conversations yesterday. They're standing their ground. They're saying, no, we're going to go ahead with this. So we're in for a tough time right now. So everyone, get ready.
Yeah, so we're checking to see if there are updates other than the comments from the AGF yesterday. They will have more from the Attorney General of the Federation, Labour themselves, some of which you've already seen saying, well, the NUE and all of them saying, well, they are on this morning. So, but we'll bring you a lot more of all of those in just a moment, Ayo.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Definitely something very heartbreaking. But, while we get those reports, because our second conversation this morning is going to be on that, let's have a conversation this morning on maritime security and other matters, particularly at the time that the Navy is 68. Joining us this morning is Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, who is the Chief of Naval Staff. He's right here in the studio with me. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you, Ayo.
Should I say happy birthday?
Yeah, thank you. That's good.
68 years on. How far so far?
Well, Ayo, the Navy is 68 today. 68 years is a lot, both in the life of a man and the life of a nation. And within that 68 years, we have grown tremendously to the extent where we are now, considered as one of the, maybe the fourth largest Navy in Africa, with a Navy that is ready to defend the nation and ready to perform its statutory roles. That's how we have gone.
Statutory roles leads me to the question, which I dare say a good number of people have no idea what the Navy really does. When they think about the Navy, they only think of water and ships.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yes.
What are these statutory roles? Let's use this opportunity of your birthday to tell Nigerians, what are the statutory roles?
Good. Well, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, vests on the armed forces of Nigeria the responsibility for defense of the nation from external aggression, defense of the nation's territorial integrity and sovereignty. This is the basic role which the Nigerian Navy performs in the maritime domain, which we call our military role. Then in addition to those military roles, the Nigerian Navy is also charged with other roles which we call them our Coast Guard roles or our policing roles. The Armed Forces Act 2004 expatiated on those roles, assisting and coordinating the enforcement of all custom laws of Nigeria in the maritime domain, assisting and coordinating the enforcement of all international and national laws acceded to by Nigeria, particularly in the maritime domain, and protecting the nation's exclusive economic zone to ensure that Nigeria, as provided in the international laws, is the only nation that have the right to exploit the resources within the exclusive economic zone. In addition to that, we are also charged with provision of aid to civil authority and also hydrographic surveying, nautical charting to provide information for mariners, among other roles.
Well, the one that catches my attention the most is that you protect.
Yeah.
You know, and that protection also includes that of 90 trillion naira.
Yeah.
What do I mean? A 2017 estimation of Nigeria's maritime assets, from shipping activities to manpower engagement, the blue economy, and the rest of them, puts the entire value chain in the region of 90 trillion naira.
Yeah.
It is jeopardized by insecurity. I'd like you to ask you a question around the security, well, maritime security from two angles. First is, what's your collaboration with states along the maritime coastlines? And secondly, what exactly is going on in terms of maritime, the incursions that come from marauders who take on our crude oil?
Yes, that's good. When you talk about collaboration in the maritime environment, the maritime domain, of course, the maritime domain is one area where you cannot achieve more if you do not have partnership and collaboration. And that is why within our region, which is the Gulf of Guinea, we have a systematic method of collaborating with all the regional navies and coast guards in this region. We have the Yaoundé architecture, where we divided the region into zones, Zone E, Zone D, Zone, and so on. And within these zones, we have mechanisms whereby where there is infraction in a particular coastal state, and such ships that committed that infraction enter another coastal state, we have a mechanism to be able to get into those other states and arrest them. So we are firmly collaborating with all the states, all the coastal states within the region, and that is the only way we can move forward. Then in terms of the general maritime crimes within our region, these are things that they keep on evolving. And of course, you know that if you look at the psychology of crimes, the society where we are also part of what constitutes why people go into crime. And our duty as a Navy is to continue to combat them, which we do by putting our ships on patrol, by extending our surveillance systems so that we even track these offenders even before they get into the actual offense. And we've achieved some tremendous results in the process over the years.
Is it this collaboration that informed the engagement of a private security outfit? Or would you agree with those who think, oh, well, maybe it's because the Navy can't do the job, that is why the federal government had to engage private security outfits?
No, it's not because the Navy cannot do the job. Like I said, collaboration is key in the maritime domain. And of course, security, as it is today, is not being looked at from the point of view of the military alone. Security is a whole of society approach, whole of government approach. And when I say whole of society approach, we must key into the communities because they are the first source of intelligence. They are the first source of information gathering. So the way we collaborate with the private security is also the way we collaborate with the communities, which will assist us to do our job. So all these are areas where the government have found out that there is need for us to involve everyone with the intention of achieving our goal, which is reducing the incidences of maritime crimes. And that's why there are several private companies that are helping us to gather information, most importantly in the area of surveillance. There are areas where you really need community involvement. There are areas where you need local knowledge. And in those areas, that is where we feel that this are important.
How do you respond to those who say part of this collaboration is probably some of your men who also collaborate with criminals to steal Nigeria's crude oil?
Yeah, there's no way where you will not see bad eggs. But I can tell you here today that the Nigerian Navy, to the best of my knowledge, are made up of sincere and men of integrity. We've been in this system for a very long time, doing just the same thing, trying to protect the nation's resources. Once in a while, we have cases whereby a few individuals, mostly at the lower level, get involved in criminality, and then we deal with them appropriately. There is, in every 2 or 3 months, you find out some officers, some ratings are being tried for such level of involvement. But on a grand scale, the Navy is a clean and decent organization where we do not expect such to happen. Now, when you look at people collaborating, of course, it happens at different stratas. These people in the Navy are also part of the society. And once in a while, a few of them could maybe get involved. And then the most important thing for us is that we extract such people, deal with them appropriately to serve as a deterrent to others.
Well, forgive me for staying on that for a bit. 68 years is quite a length of time.
Yeah.
And those who have institutional memory can actually use it to advantage either of the nation or of themselves.
Yeah.
Now, I talked about collaboration the other time. One would expect that, of course, that collaboration is also with the communities, which is where this private security thing that you're talking about is coming from. But, you know, crude oil theft is an extremely costly and technical enterprise.
Yes.
It is not something small boys and girls would do.
Yeah.
So when you say it's only mostly people from on the lower rung of the ladder, those who would argue with you that can those people actually have the kind of sophistication and the kind of resources that is required to take on such things? I know it's a difficult question, but I know it's something, I mean, people are going to ask you anyway. So how do you respond to them when such issues come up?
Yes, like you said, crude oil theft is a very difficult exercise. It might sometimes have to involve collaboration of even those who own the facilities. But to the best of our knowledge and ability, we've not noticed that on a grand scale. A few cases have emerged, which we have investigated and handed over to appropriate investigating authorities like the Nigerian police and the AFCC. A few individuals have been tried. Some of them have been given appropriate sentences. And that is to the extent that we cannot say that there's collaboration at the grand strategic level. Because the few cases which we have brought to the public domain, which have been arrested, have not pointed to any link to the level. But, you know, generally in Nigeria, people tend to speculate. And these things remain in the realm of speculation.
You know, sir, I don't know how you receive the news when you hear that Nigeria's infrastructure has been attacked for one reason or the other. And you raised the issue of surveillance the other time, which is actually an extremely important one. So I don't know how you take it, the fact that because this whole surveillance thing was all Navy before now, before the government had to, bring in, some private security outfits and the rest of them. Would you prefer a revert to the old order? Because, as you said, that is the statutory responsibility of the Navy. So if it looks like, okay, the Navy is not doing it now, or cannot do it alone now, we have to engage some private security persons, especially at a time when the Navy is getting more and more resources to do their jobs. So there are those who would say, well, maybe the Navy is right now better equipped to do the job, and so we should terminate whatever contract we have with whoever else.
Well, like I said, security is a whole of society approach. That is the modern concept of national security. Yeah. You cannot achieve security using the military alone. And therefore, and even from the beginning, even when the Navy was there alone, as you said, Navy was never there alone. We had the Marine Police, we had the Civil Defense, all of us have been working together all these years. And I want to put it clear that even at that time, we was also collaborating with the communities. The chiefs in the Niger Delta, the traditional rulers, we've been collaborating with them. So it is not new. What is happening today is not new. And anywhere in the world, you have people collaborating to ensure that the national objective of protecting the maritime domain is achieved. So I am not an advocate of let it be only the Navy. If you look at our policing rules, use the word, the Armed Forces Act aptly used some words that shows you that there needs to be collaboration. You see, assisting and coordinating the enforcement of all custom laws in the maritime domain, which means that you cannot be alone if you are assisting and coordinating. Assisting and coordinating the enforcement of all laws acceded to by Nigeria. Of course, NIMASA is there. We are assisting them, we are coordinating with them. So I am not saying, and I can never advocate that the Navy should be there alone.
Okay.
We need all hands on deck.
I get that. And just as you said, the collaboration existed before now.
Yes, yes.
But what would you have preferred as Chief of Naval Staff?
Collaboration.
The way it is now or the previous one?
The way it is now?
You know, the way it is now, there's a contract with the federal government, but, you know, contract with a private security by the federal government.
Well, it's not different because it's still collaboration. If there is collaboration and we're achieving our result, we're achieving the aim, that's what matters to me.
Okay. Now, you talked about communities. What are your findings, particularly? You know, 68 years is quite a length of time.
Yeah.
But what have been your findings? We have just a few. What have been your findings about this whole insecurity, particularly along the maritime coastlines?
Well, if you look at our case, that's a Nigerian example, insecurity in the case of Nigeria. I think it has so many root causes. So many root causes. You look at issues of poverty, issues of environmental degradation, issues of the coastal communities not being empowered. I'm sure if you have a job to do, you will not enter the creek. You know the level of risk someone takes to enter those creeks to do what they are doing. If you pay me money, I won't go there to do that because anything can happen to you. Even while in the process of busting the pipeline, you can get consumed in the process. So it shows that they are doing it firstly as a form of desperation to survive. And also there are some who are just doing it because of their criminal intent and criminal element. Of course, there are human beings who are born with such criminal intent. And those are the ones that we must deal with them appropriately to root them out. So the cases in our situation is multifaceted. You have the criminals who are just criminals. Then you have those who are lured into it because they think they can make a living. But we must discourage them and make them know that there are alternatives to what they are doing. That there are other ways they can make a living decently without engaging in such acts.
Okay. Now, how about, I mean, crude oil theft is not the only insecurity issue we have, right? How do you deal with piracy?
Yes, the issue of piracy, of course, you remember that in the past, Nigeria was listed as one of the most piracy-prone countries, and this had several implications. That ships coming into Nigeria will pay more insurance, what they call a war premium. And the implication is that goods that are imported in this country will be higher in the market, which increases the level of poverty, and so on and so forth. But with the effort of Nigerian Navy, in collaboration with other security agencies, and even the communities, and even the other stakeholders, we were able to checkmate the issue of piracy to the extent that as far in 2022, the IMB, International Maritime Bureau, delisted Nigeria from the list of piracy-prone countries. And since then, we've sustained that effort. Until today, Nigeria is not one of the countries listed as piracy-prone countries. This takes a lot of effort. Our ships are at sea 24 hours a day. At least as I'm talking to you now, we have over 12 ships patrolling the maritime environment. And you know what it means to fuel a capital ship to go to sea. We are doing this because we must sustain that fight. In addition to that, we have our surveillance system, which is monitoring the entire maritime domain, particularly outward towards the EEZ. And these are the things that we must sustain and we must improve upon.
Vice Admiral Ogala, as you said, I really I don't envy your job. No doubt about it. Now, you're 1 year in office already now. And
yes, about to.
About 1 year in office now. How has it been?
It's been tough, I must confess. Like the challenges that we are seeing, when you are part of the system, you are not on top, you wouldn't see everything. Now I've been seeing the challenges. So much so that I hardly have time to sleep. But it is one of the things we are trained for. We've been trained to do this job and we are doing it. It's seriously challenging, but we are tackling the issues as they arise.
You know, one of the major challenges you probably have to deal with is that of your men. Yeah. When you're making every effort at the top, it would seem like one way or the other, you're not either getting across to them, or while you're dealing with some issues, some other issues come up from the field and the rest of them. So how do you handle those issues? What are the motivations they get? What are the encouragements that they get from time to time? And when these issues and these backlashes, so to speak, come, how do you handle it? Because Nigerians just hear that, oh, the Navy did this, and then nothing else, is heard by them.
Yes.
How do you handle such issues?
Yes, the Nigerian Navy, that's why our motto is onward together. Onward together is that in a ship, we are all together. If, as a chief of naval staff, if I'm the commanding officer, if I'm moving in my ship, I'm there with the least rating. And whatever happens to the ship will happen to the rating, it also happens to me. Because all of us will either go down or will survive. And that's why we take our men as the most important factor of production. Of course, you know that the human resource is always the most important factor of production. So we are determined and we have been making effort to make sure that we do those things that will impact on the men. Starting from the issue of taking care of their welfare. And welfare has so many ramifications. Education of the children, that's why we have welfare schools. We have hospitals that treat our personnel free. We also have housing. It is an entitlement for every personnel serving in the Navy to be given free and decent accommodation. We've been doing that despite the shortage of resources. We've been doing that. And for me particularly, within this 1 year, we have made it an agenda that we must ensure that we increase our accommodation facilities by at least 70%, to ensure that 70% to 80% of our personnel are accommodated. And we have started doing that already in Abuja, in Lagos, in Port Harcourt. Everywhere where we have bases, we are doing that right now.
Well, again, I think congratulations. The Navy at 68 with you in office is in order.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And
thank you very much.
So much for being here this morning. Well, the strike is on. Will your men also be going on strike?
No. We don't go on strike.
I just wanted to be sure.
We don't.
Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, Chief of Naval Staff, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Well, the Navy is 68. And on that day, while we are celebrating the Navy at 68, the labor strike has begun. Chamberlain, Kayla.
Oh, yes, indeed. So let's go right ahead. We've got our correspondents in different parts of the city, so we'll just bring you a couple of them. Well, let's start off with Dele, who joins us to give us an update on what is going on now, where he is. So, Dele, what is the update about the strike right now?
Let's go. We're here live at the Federal Secretariat in Abuja, the nation's capital, and there's indeed substantial compliance with the NLC and the TUC's demand for a total shutdown of activities by Nigerian workers. Just right behind me is one of the secretariats that houses a lot of ministries, departments and agencies here in the nation's capital. And if you can see right behind me, so that nobody is allowed to go in except for security officers who man the various desks in and outside the premises, so they're not allowed to go in. Also, down this road is another of those buildings that houses government agencies, that ministries like the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, they're all in these buildings. Now, normally on a good day, if you come to this area of the Federal Secretariat, you see a beehive of activities. There are loads and loads of cars in this particular area. Just facing us there is the road to the National Assembly of Nigeria, and this entire area is always a beehive of activities. Also, just there is the popular Eagle Square here in Abuja. The entire area there is always flooded with vehicles and cars and people. But that's not the situation today, because Nigerian workers have decided to down tools based on the fact that government has not substantially complied with their demands as far as the minimum wage is concerned. So indeed here in Abuja, there is substantial compliance to the directive by the NLC and TC that Nigerian workers should down tools. Also, we had scenes at the airports where passengers in the local wing of the Abuja International Airport were not allowed to go in for their flights. As at midnight today, the electricity workers also complied with that strike, and the lights went off. So a lot of people have keyed into this strike. Judiciary workers have keyed in. The NUJ has also keyed in to this particular strike. So in the nation's capital of Abuja, there is indeed substantial compliance to the strike, guys.
All right, so there you go. Labour beginning their strike today in the capital city. But, well, hopefully we should get Dari to speak in a moment to see if that comes through from Lagos. But we've got Dr. Taufik Raimi here with us. He is a development expert and political economist. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Good morning, Kayla. Good morning.
So yesterday, the Attorney General of the Federation did say in his letter that this action by Labour, if they were embarked on it as they have now, was illegal. But we also saw the meeting between the leadership of the National Assembly and Labour trying to stave off this, but not sure it succeeded because, I mean, you could see now they've already kicked off and several sectors affected by the strike. Much as people say maybe both of them had the opportunity to ensure that this is sorted, but here we are again today and another round of industrial action. What say you?
Thank you for inviting me. My position on this is that when we when two parties or tripartite parties like we currently have on this national minimum wage setting comes to the table, the idea is to drive the issues to logical conclusion. I think the Attorney General of the Federation position is that according to the Act, the NLC, TLC, the organized labor, supposed to have given the federal government, or the governments as it were, notification, 14-day notice that they will be going on strike, which is believed that it hasn't been substantially complied with. Of course, Labour on their part said that they have made an announcement that if by end of May the negotiation is not concluded, they are going to embark on a nationwide strike. For me, I feel that this is avoidable. This should have been avoided because of the consequences, not just to our the damage to our economy as a nation, also even the life of our children. Imagine that WAEC examination is currently ongoing. Schools are shut, as I was called.
Yeah, but this was always going to be the consequences if they had embarked on the strike.
Yes.
And many also think, well, FG knew that this was going to be the likely scenario if they did not. So some thought maybe the FG took Labour for granted, and Labour thought, well, if you're going to take us for granted, what else do you want us to do?
Well, Chamberlain, I am not Mr. President, but I believe that Mr. President has been very sincere, very committed. Remember that he set up a 37-member panel as far back as January. You know, it takes two to tango. What if the federal government was ready, state government was ready, the private sector, perhaps they were ready with what they believe is doable, affordable minimum wage. And of course, we all knew where the Labour started off from. their demand for 600,000
government
plus.
offered what?
And government,
40.
as of today, as of yesterday, we learned that government offers 60,000. Of course, that will be seen as a far cry from what the Labour has demanded. My position on this matter is basically that as far as negotiation is concerned, it hasn't been said that it is closed. And the main issue we should be looking at as a nation, and as somebody who is a development expert, who has also seen this kind of labor strike. This is not the first time we're having it. Almost every administration is confronted with a strike of this nature, which we believe should be avoided if both parties have, or the tripartite parties have come up with objective analysis, presentations of what is doable. Affordability is the main issue as far as I've seen in this matter.
Okay,
what is
you're
affordable?
saying Labour, their stance is not doable, FG stance is not doable. So what would you recommend then as the meeting point?
Okay, for me to answer this, I want to let you know, and our audience, that as far back as, I want to be a bit scientific and as quickly as possible, as far back, when we look at the revenue generation across the state, by last year, December 2023, do you believe that only 2 states of Nigeria has a combined federal allocation and their internally generated revenue enough to pay for their recurrent expenditure? Only 2 states in Nigeria.
How much are they paying
and
for
that is
minimum wage,
Lagos.
those 2 states?
And that is Lagos. Lagos internally generated revenue was 635 billion naira.
How much are they paying for minimum wage?
And then they got only 177 from federal
Dr.
government.
Taufik, how much is Lagos paying for minimum wage?
Lagos has even offered to pay 70,000 in this minimum wage.
70,000 realistic?
Okay.
For a state that gets that amount, those kind of resources?
No, the resources we are talking, I mentioned recurrent expenditure. We are not talking of capital expenditure. The money that accrued to government should not just only be seen as the one that will be paid, that will be used to pay for salaries alone. Of course, we have 11 states in this country that could not, even with the fact that they got last year, and the
I hear you for those states, but for the states that you say gets those kind of resources, are you happy with how much they are paying their workers?
Why 70,000 may be below the bet?
No, they're not paying 70,000 yet.
No, they've not. But I'm saying that
they're paying way below that.
If they pay below that, there are salary that a worker gets is not just enough. May not even ever be enough to take care of the expenditures that they are expected to be saddled with. What government is trying to do, for my own reading, is to provide an enabling environment. If you receive 100,000, you are going to go to the market to buy food.
They are not even receiving that. That's hypothetical.
Okay, that's hypothetical.
Let's be honest with ourselves here. Because if we're looking at it, because that's exactly what Chimwale is trying to get, because you're an expert.
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the minimum wage being paid in states like Lagos? Are you satisfied with that amount? Is that a logical amount for the amount of money that they make in internally generated revenue plus the FAC allocations? Is this a reasonable salary that is being paid already in Lagos? And the proposed 70,000, is it reasonable in your view?
In my view, the 70,000, if complemented with other amenities that will make that money, the purchasing power of that particular amount to be effective, to me, is almost close to what is reasonable and fair.
Okay.
400 and something thousand.
So let's talk about. That's where I'm going to right now.
Yes.
So the money that is being requested for by Labour.
Yes.
Do you think it's unreasonable?
For me, it is not only unreasonable. It is unavoidable. We have to go, when you are, as an employer, you have to look at other costs that you are saddled with. Remember that the national minimum wage is not just for federal government to pay.
So what's a reasonable amount that Labour should ask for? Because they've down tools.
Yes.
It's affecting all of us.
Exactly.
What is a reasonable? So because maybe if the voice is speaking up on what is a reasonable amount, start to get louder, maybe they can shift some ground, right?
Yes.
So what do you think is a reasonable amount for labor to request based on the economic realities of our country right now?
Exactly. That is quite right. But I will also quickly let you know, before I just summarize on what may be reasonable.
Okay.
You understand? It is not me that is going to pay that money. We have to look at the pulse of all the states that are concerned and also the private sector. We have 11 states as of the end of December last year, whose IGR and fact that they received were not enough to pay for their recurrent expenditure.
Okay.
So if you now increase the amount, the minimum wage astronomically, where would they get the money from?
Okay. So what's the reasonable amount?
The reasonable amount that, based on analysis, 100,000 to 120,000 might sound very comfortable
which
in a way.
Analysis? Based on which analysis?
Based on the analysis of what a minimum, what should be the minimum pay of the lowest.
Which analysis?
The analysis
so
here
we
is.
can all see what,
yeah, the analysis here is what is it that such, based on that cadre, is expected to spend on food? What kind of rent is expected for that caliber of staff? What allowance could be made for children of such?
Let him tell us. Let him break it down.
So that is a breakdown.
Doctor, she has a pen.
Yes.
Break it down for us.
Yes.
100,000.
So I'm listening to you. You said feeding.
Okay. Yes. If you put me on this,
with 100,000 naira.
Yeah.
120.
Feeding. How much should I spend on feeding? Let's say I belong to that cadre.
Yes.
And you say, okay, 100,000 should be okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how much should I spend on feeding?
At least you spend, say, 30 to 40% of that.
Okay, that's 30,000. Because it's 100,000 we're talking about.
Yes, because you're not going to buy a bag of rice and finish it in 1 month.
Accommodation.
Which is the accommodation, because of where such person would live. You live in Abuja. And again, if you work with federal government or state, or
I work in Ministry of Education.
You could work in Ministry of Education. They also have subsidized housing. Do you know?
Okay, so how much?
How much is it?
If you take 10% or 15%
so 10,000 a month.
Is that under the bridge? What is?
Let's find out.
No, it's not under the bridge because it's subsidized. It's subsidized.
Okay.
It's
so
subsidized.
I've fed myself, I've accommodated myself.
Yes,
transportation. How do I get to work?
Yes, government has already put in place a transportation system that enables you. You see, that is why it has to be holistic.
Yes.
You understand?
Is it free? This transportation system, is it free?
In Abuja, for instance, since you mentioned Abuja, it's free for the next 6 months if you take the train.
Okay.
But
I live in Kubwa.
Yes.
My office is in Federal Secretariat.
Yes.
Which train am I taking, sir?
No, you have even if you don't take train, there are shuttle buses that the federal government have allowed.
Okay, so I take the shuttle bus.
Yes.
It's free. You're saying it's free?
It's free.
They will attack you on social media.
No, wait. Let me tell you.
Hold on. Just
even if they like,
which shuttle bus is this? How come I've never seen it?
No, federal government, most of the ministries, they have buses that Yes, I think even the press should help in this matter.
Okay.
If you go to Mabushi, for instance, Federal Ministry of Housing. Yes. If you go, you will see buses.
How many percentage of people work in the federal government?
No. I'm just telling you this.
So I've fed myself. I've accommodated myself.
Yes.
I've paid for transportation.
Yes.
Okay.
You make allowance for your children's school.
No.
You understand?
Let's assume I don't have children.
Okay.
Yeah. But for many people from my cadre right now in this Ministry of Education that I'm working in, many of us will have children. Right?
Yes.
So let's say I have 2 children.
Yes.
Okay. So this feeding.
Your arithmetics.
This feeding of 30,000, was it only me or me and my children?
Yes, you work for. Of course, when you hand salary, it is not just going to be. And you remember also, you said you cited as an example. You said you are the only one person.
Okay. So this salary will be good for people that don't have families.
No, even if they do, what I'm trying to let you know is that you see. The target of federal government, for instance, is to ease other things that will make...
So electricity. So my electricity bill.
Yes, electricity bill. How much?
I'm band F.
Band health?
Based on this rent that I'm paying, so this 10,000 now.
Which is band F?
I don't know now. But based on this 10,000,
Yes.
we cannot be band A, B, or C.
Oh, you cannot be because, of course, you know where
So we
band
have to
A
go up
and
to
where
the
band B
back.
is.
I know you answered that one quick. Please give us the other one,
electricity.
Electricity? You spend...
How much can I spend? I live in Kubwa, I told you earlier.
Yes.
So how much do you think I spend on electricity?
You can spend 20,000 on
20,000.
that. Add it up. How
Okay.
much have you gotten?
All together now,
yes,
I have done now 60,000. Assuming that the shuttle bus picks me up every day and I don't have to pay transport to and from work.
And I told you that, of course, the government is concerned that, or whoever the employer is concerned, is also concerned about your children going to school.
Okay.
You know, there will be allowance that will be allowed for education of your children.
Okay.
And your children are
So
not expected to go to private school if you are in that cadre, for instance.
Yes.
And also government has come up with a student loans board. Student loan, you know, which is also going to make things. That's why I said the best way to look at this national minimum wage is not to look at just the wage itself. What are the other cushioning effects? What are the other things that government is putting in place to make it work?
So you see, with these figures
yes.
that we've tried to collate here, we haven't even gone halfway of our expenses as
yes,
human beings.
yes, yeah.
But 60,000 naira already gone into all of this.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But
that's why I said,
as a person,
yes,
with 10,000 naira in a year, so 10 times 12. That means I'm paying a rent of 100. Where, sir?
It is possible.
Where?
It is, but you said you live in Kubwa.
Yes, where in Kubwa? Where?
Such a
120,000 naira rent.
Yes, between 100 and 150,000 can get you an accommodation.
Where?
The Kubwa you mentioned, Kubwa is expanding.
It's not true, sir.
How much is it?
It's not true. The minimum rent you can get in Kubwa, the minimum you can get is 500,000. That's the minimum.
That's the minimum?
Yes.
Depending on the kind of house that you are talking about.
So which kind of house am I going to pay? Is it cardboard box that I'm going to live in?
You see,
am I going to live in an IDP camp?
And I've also told you that this is a subsidized housing. You understand?
Yes.
I'm not saying that where you go and then, the space should be like this, kitchen should be like this, and all that.
Well, I wind it down now.
So I can agree.
When you say all of these things and just listen to you, you just make it look as if it's a society that all of these things you mentioned, the boss, student loan scheme, as if they are all
as they're already there.
Okay.
They're not.
These things are working.
I thank you for this question. Let me tell you, that is why we have to build confidence in our current administration. Wait.
We understand you will build confidence.
You understand? You build confidence. Look, you cannot. You don't spoil a well before you allow somebody to drink out of it.
In the first instance, government has not even offered this 100,000 that you're talking about.
That's why
I have not.
That's why I'm saying that the 60,000 that government has proposed, they've not said that's the last they are going to pay. It's negotiation. Negotiation is still ongoing.
You said it yourself that they put up this committee in January.
Yes.
And from January to June, how many times has fuel price changed? How many times have you gone to the market and the commodities have risen? How many times have you given people money to go buy something and it's tripled? From January to June.
Chamberlain.
If you were negotiating, you're a property person.
Your program
if you were a landlord, you would kick out your tenants.
On your program yesterday, if you also watch your program, when Sheon Okebaloye, politics, Sunday politics, he brought in the Minister of Finance, who also talk about economic stability plan of the government. You understand? We have come to a point whereby this is the same thing that the Labour is doing. While I sympathize with Labour, all of us are in the market, in that same market. But we must be conscious of what is
so when you go to the market, you tell them economic stability plan, say don't increase that price.
No. Even that price that is being increased.
We need to be realistic about something. If they have plans, it's a different thing if government has plans to let those things work.
Yes.
And secondly,
for me, I still have not believed that government does not have plans.
We've got our correspondent, Dari, who is on standby to give us an update on what's going on about the strike as well. In Lagos, where you say that they're not even paying the
70,000
minimum wage, in spite of all the resources they've got. Dari, what's going on?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain. I've been going around this morning. I'm currently in Alausa area of Lagos, and you know where that is. It's the seat of power here in Lagos, and that is where a lot of government offices are situated. So I'm standing in front of the Lagos State Revenue House. my left is the Nigerian Institution of Surveyors. So just to give you an idea that this is where you will find a lot of states and federal workers. So what we noticed this morning was that a lot of these workers resumed their daily routine. They did their daily routine by resuming to the office, but the gates were locked. Say some meters away from here as well, that is where you have the state-owned TV station, the Federal Inland Revenue. All of those places are locked, and they're not just locked. I think the NLC and the TUC have been able to get the buy-in of some of the other trade union or the unionists to enforce this. So at every point you see the unionists going there just to make sure that there's a high level of compliance with what is going on. We've also touched base with, say, private sector or private institutions, so to say. There's a bank down the road, and we asked them, they're not also open to the public for service this morning. So to an extent, it's the first day of this strike, and from what we have gathered here in Lagos, even from the commercial activities on the road, I can tell you that there's a high level compliance to that strike. Chamberlain.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Dari. So as you've seen, Doctor, the strike is on in different parts of the country, but I think they've also tried to raise this issue time and again. If you're going to embark on strike, all well and good, but there are certain conditions precedents, and they also argue, can I be forced to join a strike if I want to go to work?
Well, that's what unions.
Don't have a right.
I think that's the thing about unions, isn't it? They can force you. I was going to say the man was holding a cane.
That's violating.
That man in that video was holding a cane. Is he going to flog people?
No, he does not. He does not because he.
But you see, that's the thing about unionism. It's a group effort.
It's a group thing.
And you have to be, if you're part of this, then you have to adhere to them. If you choose not to, you say it's my right, I want to. Yeah, well, that's entirely up to you. And good luck with that. You know, but listening to you this morning,
the hypothetical minimum wage.
Yes, I think that we have to be more realistic, sir, in the way that we engage with government and explain things, because you can't put up. This is 100,000. You said 100 to 120,000 naira should be enough with these figures, with the economic situation. I can put it to you directly, sir, that it is not possible to survive on this amount. In Nigeria at this moment, it's not possible. The shuttle bus doesn't come to my house to pick me. I have to take a bike from whatever dingy village you've put me in with 120,000, where I'm paying 120,000 naira rent. I have to find some way to get to where the shuttle bus is.
Yes.
Even if the bus is free.
Okay, so
with that alone, my money is gone.
Okay, let me quickly assist. This is why also in development of a city like Abuja, I have particularly proposed decentralization of development. Development should not just be concentrated within the city center. Though, like Kuba, you mentioned, if there are certain ministries that can be deployed into different districts, the need to move into the city center will reduce. Abuja was meant to house only 400,000 people at the inception. Today, Abuja is housing 4 million, 6 million. People like you who lives in Cuba should not even come to the city center. As you said.
Shots fired.
People like you. You should have the kind of business you can do within that locality that can still generate you even enough money. The money you are making is being spent on things that are also excusable. That's part of it. Look at when the law school is where? It's in Buhari. People who work
I'll have to maybe pure water business.
Not even as federal government or state government. That's why I'm telling you.
Even that one is capital intensive.
You can have.
Business can we start like this?
Yes, I can advise you. Even if you work for government, like I said, government can actually move some of their ministries. Look at what is happening along the airport road.
But Doctor,
some ministries are there, and they are not. They are also, their houses are also just around that same location. Okay. So the analysis one is trying to propose is not for people to live in Mowe, Ogun State, and be going to work in VI. There's no amount of money government will pay that will be sufficient. So we must look at affordability. That is just my key point here. I'm saying that whatever amount that government want to agree, be assured that that amount is also going to be paid by the private sector, So and
you suggest 100,000.
I suggest 120,000.
120,000.
That's what I'm saying. And that if anyone hears 120,000, you can work out how you will be able to cope with it.
Cut your coat according to your cloth.
And in addition, government also has plan. The president, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, he has rolled out a lot of things that they want to do. Even at state level, they also want to do a lot of things to bring down food inflation, interest rate, and a lot of other things. So if these are brought onto the table...
The markets are not determined by plans that are in the pipeline.
But some are already working. There are no hanging fruit. Look at what His Excellency
development
economists
and political economists. We thank you very much indeed for your time here this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
We have to go on
I'm on the side of Labour and I'm on
Laddie
the side
Adams
of
is on standby now. He will talk to us about the market, so maybe you might want to listen. Good morning, Laddie.
Yeah, good morning, Chamberlain. Well, it's the first trading day of June, and definitely everyone's thinking about minimum wage, at this time and industrial action. But it's first trading day. Let's get to some of the top stories that set your agenda today. We're seeing oil prices are down early trade today, despite a move by producer group OPEC Plus to extend deep output cuts well into 2025. But we see Brent not reacting positively to that news there, 0.3% down. That's what we're seeing for Brent this morning. WTI moving farther away from that $80 mark, $76.80, down about 0.2%. Let's get a check on the FX market now. We're seeing the close for Friday there. Action, as usual, but not that much volatility. NAFM, that's NFM, 1,485 naira. That was a close on Friday. NAFEX, 1,495, 3.93%. So definitely, we did see, some volatility in that market, but transactions were about $200 million. Spot transactions were completed within about 1,174 and 1,550 range. So that's what we had for Friday in the FX market. To some company news now, listed energy giants Geregu Power PLC signed a partnership with German multinational technology conglomerate Siemens Energy to expand the capacity of the indigenous power company. In a statement sent to the Nigerian Exchange Limited, Geregu says the MOU, which was signed in Berlin, aims to ensure sustainable, resilient and efficient power generation while safeguarding the longevity of assets. And this is all aimed at supporting the growth and sustainability of the Nigeria electricity supply industry. The chairman of the board of directors of Geregu Power PLC, Mr. Femi Otedola, led the Nigerian company's team, while the managing director for the Middle East and Africa, Mr. Dietmar Sesdorfer, led the Siemens Energy team. An International Air Transport Association has confirmed that the Central Bank of Nigeria has cleared foreign airlines trapped funds worth $831 million from June last year to date. The Geneva, Switzerland-based IATA said the development had brought international airlines trapped funds globally to about $1.8 billion. That's according to IATA, from the peak of about $850 million foreign airlines funds in Nigeria. That was last June. Only $19 million left outstanding. Future of Nigeria's oil and gas is also on the burner, at this time, and that's been brewing right now as divestments and takeovers by indigenous oil players, continue at this time. Well, we see the Harvard Business School Association of Nigeria highlighted these issues in a recent meeting of stakeholders. That was last week. Let's take a listen.
Oil industry has a significant impact on Nigeria. It's part of our history. It will continue to be part of our history. It drives a lot of things. Whether when the forest goes up or down, oil industry is involved. If there are fuel queues, if there are diesel queues. So oil affects our lives in more ways than one.
Schlumberger used to train all of us, both Schlumberger staff and staff of the operating companies. We were able to set up with these companies we set up because Shell trained them, and we took people from Shell to come and set up. Now, all of those people we used to start up the businesses are the ones they are calling dinosaurs. And the people who were training, Slumberry and Share, stopped training 15 years ago. That's why the middle is empty. We have to take the pattern from there. Because all of us now know, once all the people we brought in to set up these businesses 12, 13 years ago are hitting 60 and retiring, we have to worry about the pipeline, human resource pipeline. And you can only really invest in it when your business depends on it. So it won't be an all-comers affair. The few who are doing well among the IPPG companies, who now know that the future of their business depends on it, they will invest on it and they will solve the problem. They will have to.
And a standoff between the federal government and Labour still on, with the Nigerian government insisting the minimum wage demand of Labour was quite unrealistic. And the government's offering a 100% increase on the existing minimum wage, and they're saying that should be accepted at this time. Well, joining us to weigh on the matter is Mr. Dewale Smart, you're the Director General of NECA, joining me from Geneva. Great to have you on the show.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Good morning. And it seems the tripartite committee is not making headway, at this time. No consensus yet on national minimum wage, and now industrial action is upon us. How are you seeing all of this?
Well, it's quite unfortunate that we get to this and find ourselves in this situation once again. In the last 1 year, probably we've had over 3 or 4 different calls for strikes and industrial actions, which up to us has become very worrisome. But in this instance of the work of the tripartite committee on the national minimum wage, I think it's very important that we understand the context of these old issues, because there seems to be a lot of misinformation that is going, that is peddled out there. So while we are not, it's very important to say this also, we are not an affiliate of the organized labor. We are not also a government parastatal. We are a body of respected, legally formed and responsible businesses in Nigeria. So having said that, the tripartite committee, as the name connotes, comprises 3 distinct organizations or bodies. One representing the workers, which is NLTUC, NECA, and the organized private sector comprising Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, National Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industrymen and Agriculture, NASIMA, National Association of Small and Medium-Scale Enterprises, NASME, and NASI, National Association of Small-Scale Industries, comprising the private sector, and then government. It is a tripartite structure that is supposed to meet consultatively and then make recommendation of a new wage, a new minimum wage to the president, who has the constitutional right, the role to either approve that figure or disapprove that figure, and then pass his approval within the context of a bill to the National Assembly to take the legislative action that is necessary before it comes into law. Now, what we are meant to recommend is a national minimum wage. It's very important to address that. The minimum wage below which no organization, either in the private or public sector, should pay. The wage ordinarily for the most vulnerable worker. It is not, the process is not to set a general wage increase. It is not. There has been conversations about living wage or there's no living wage. This particular committee that we have, it's set up to come up with recommendations for a new minimum wage. And what has transpired in the committee has been conversations, some call it negotiations, consultation, as is necessary. So it is not impossible that the 3 parties will not agree. It is not impossible that our interests will differ. But the most important thing is we have to find a balance between the key components, the key critical ingredients before we arrive or make recommendation. And this is the macroeconomic dynamics that we currently face. Looking at also the needs of workers and their families, looking at inflation rates, exchange rates, interest rates, looking at the sustainability and ability of businesses to pay. You have to bring all those together to arrive at a minimum wage. It's very important to espouse this minimum wage below which nobody should pay.
Okay, yeah, well, definitely, at this point, looking at the macro headwinds at this time, we can agree that it's not the fault, of the vulnerable citizens that where we are with inflation and, GDP and all of that. Because if we look at the historical data now, 5,500, year 2000, that was, the minimum wage. Then we had 18,000 in 2011. 2019, 30,000 naira. Then we now had the wage, award. But let's look at how prices, prices of, important commodities have gone up. Let's look at fuel now. For instance, we've seen fuel that's up over 100%. At this time in 1 year. If we look at the price of fuel, 238 naira. That was 1 year ago. 701 naira, depending on where you're buying it from. 194%. rise. That's for petrol. We're seeing food inflation at 40.54%. So definitely, it's looking like labor and, vulnerable citizens are just getting the wrong end of the stick, at this point. When you look at, businesses increasing the prices of their goods and services at this time, but minimum wage stays sticky.
Thank you for your analysis, which is quite interesting. Now, what you didn't have, basically, is the interest rate. How does interest rates affect an average business? How does the forex rate, the exchange rate, how does it affect an average business? How does the cost of fuel, petrol, how does it impinge on the logistics business of organized businesses? How does all these issues affect organized businesses? We've not mentioned the issue of forex. How does it affect the business itself? Because one thing we cannot run away from is that as the issue, the macroeconomic conditions is affecting workers, is twice affecting the organized businesses. And without the business survivor, there cannot be jobs. So you have to find a balance in all the macroeconomic issues. The organized businesses doesn't create the macroeconomic issues. The workers doesn't create the macroeconomic issues. But we are forced, we are circumstantially, we are meant to operate within the context of the macroeconomic issues. So if you increase wage, and that's why I talk about balance, if you increase the minimum wage, we are talking of the minimum wage now, the minimum below which nobody should pay. There are businesses that are paying more than the 30,000 that you mentioned. There are businesses that are paying far above the 30,000 because they can afford it. But predominantly, many organized businesses have faced perilous times in recent times. It will also interest you, and this is in the public space, that in the last 1 year, many businesses that I don't want to mention their names, they declared humongous losses, which has compromised their ability to also pay the current minimum wage and also protect jobs. So you must, our view is this, and if it's a very strong view that we hold, that in the current circumstances where the variables are not favorable to all of us, what should be our key objective? And for us, one of the key objectives is that you must protect jobs. Because if organized businesses continue to suffer the current situation, look, there's no way we can protect jobs. That is the basic reality of it. There's no way businesses can remain sustainable when their affordability becomes in question.
Okay,
so, going on strike.
Yeah, just one moment there. Talking about what will happen to private sector at this time. Just paint a picture, for me of what will happen if we get this 494K minimum wage. If that gets approved, what will happen to the private sector?
Now, we will have created a big problem. In fact, the committee will have set up the nation for a major crisis. And this is how it's going to happen. Once, by the 30,000, the current 30,000, you have many states and local governments that are still struggling to pay 30,000. Now, the capacity and ability of organized businesses to pay Even what we have offered, what we have proposed, a 100% increase, the ability to pay is also compromised. Let's say 400,000 minimum wage. We have a negative spiral effect beyond the issue of cost puts inflation. It will also lead to the close down of many businesses, and that's the reality. It's not a threat. It is already happening. Businesses are living in groups. Nigerians, your brothers, my brothers, they are losing their jobs in groups. Those are not things that will happen. They are things that are currently happening. So the consequences of arriving or making proposals of figures that are unsustainable, we will have created serious problems for ourselves after the committee must have finished its recommendation, and that is our concern.
All right, what would you say is the right number at this time for minimum wage, national minimum wage, for the most vulnerable?
We have offered 60,000, a 100% increase from the current 30,000. And we believe strongly, because in the private sector, there is the instrument of collective bargaining that goes on at the sectoral levels, where some industries, some sectors, collective bargaining is held every year, where wages are increased, terms and conditions of welfare, they are increased on a yearly basis. In some industries, they meet to collectively bargain every 2 years, where wages are increased, cost of living are adjusted. In some industries, 3 years. So our view is this. Serious factors like productivity, factors like competence should be key factors that will drive up and influence wage increase. What we have agreed, or what we are to recommend at the committee level, is what some have called the floor wage. The floor wage below which nobody should pay. So people can negotiate and increase the wages proportionately within the context of their ability to pay, industry-wise. But to say, to agree on a figure, that will compromise the existence of organized businesses and make a serious mess of businesses beyond what they currently face, is what we are currently against.
This time, we're still seeing some multinationals announce exit, from the Nigerian market at this time, and definitely that's going to play into jobs. What's your outlook, for the jobs market in 2024 and beyond in Nigeria?
I must say, it's quite disheartening that in the whole conversation, the reality of job losses, the reality of businesses closing down. The Manufacturers Association, about a few months ago, said over 700 companies, manufacturing, SMEs, they've closed shop. When they close shop, we think they're just statistics. Those businesses, they employ Nigerians. We're not asking where are those Nigerians. The multinationals that are leaving, we are not asking where are the Nigerians that are working for them. And if a multinational should leave, all the businesses supplying the manufacturer inputs, but there are businesses in the value chain, they also face the risk of closure. Where are the people working in those businesses? We are not giving due attention to those individuals. So the outlook is very grim, is very scary. And circumstantially, if we continue in this path and reason did not prevail, we'll drive ourselves deeper into the mud. Deeper into the unemployment mode.
All right, definitely. We hope we reach some kind of agreement that favors every party, at this time. Thank you so much. It was great having your perspective, Mr. Adewale Smart. You're the Director General for NACA. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
All right, now let's get some breaking news now. Reaching out, see the Central Bank of Nigeria has revoked the banking license of Heritage Bank PLC in accordance with its mandate to promote a sound financial system in Nigeria and then exercise its powers under Section 12 of the Banks and Other Financial Acts, that's BOFIA 2020. According to the statement by the Acting Director, Corporate Communications, this action has become necessary because the board and management of the bank have not been able to improve the bank's financial performance, a situation which constitutes a threat to financial stability. So that's it. Breaking news right here. CBN has revoked the banking license of Heritage Bank. Well, let's look at trading for May now and see what to expect in the month of June. Join us now is Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO of Finance with Mukhtar, joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ladi. Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Right. So I hope the industrial action is not impacting trades today. Is it?
No, not at all. We are a private sector driven the economy, the NCF. We can work remotely and just get the system on.
Fine. Okay, let's look at the month of May now. We had 3 negative closes for about 3 weeks, but we had just that one positive close. And it turns out May turned out positive. How are you seeing that?
Well, Ladi, these negative closures are largely driven by perception, especially if you look at those negative closures coming from the banking space, where investors still had lost about what will happen in terms of recapitalization. We are beginning to get clear direction on that of recent, where some banks during their AGM have come up with a clear-cut strategy. So we might be seeing the right issues. Now, what investors are really concerned about is the price of these right issues. Are they going to be buying at a discount? And what is that discount like? And when will this right issue will be a one-off right issue? If you listen to the chairman of UBA saying that you may have a right issue now, then you have a second one when the interim dividend is paid, and you may have a final one when the final dividend is paid. So other banks have not come up with any clear-cut decision. So that seems to be what is affecting investors at the moment. Investor sentiment is a little bit low. And then when you look at other sector of the market, you've not gotten any good news in terms of the manufacturing sector, in terms of the conglomerate, in terms of the food and beverages sector. The results have not been commensurate with what investors are expecting. So definitely those negative sentiment will continue to drag down the market. But again, it also offers entry point for designing investors, especially value chain investors who come into the market and take opportunity to buy some of these stocks at a good rate.
Right, and definitely we can't look away from the industrial action at this time and the issue of minimum wage in Nigeria. Talk to me about that number, about 400,000 naira minimum wage. How would that impact listed companies on the NGX?
I think that one is very unrealistic. We know it's unrealistic, but again, then the government have not shown seriousness in also negotiating with labor. If you listen to what labor seems to say, they come up with their numbers based on figure, but the government just tend to banish numbers at them. Ordinarily, the national minimum will be commensurate with inflation rate. That's what is done globally. But unfortunately, if you look at what the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics is giving to Nigeria, what we see in the market in terms of inflation, you realize it's a vast difference. When you go to the market, it's like 100%. When you come to the Nigerian Bureau, it's telling you food inflation is about 40%. And so they've not been able to match that together. But I think 497,000 is not realistic. I don't think any company, especially listed in the index, just like your guest said before I came up, there are a lot of challenges that most of these companies are going to, especially those companies that are exposed to FX. And so sometimes when you begin to throw these numbers around, you don't also look at the larger picture of in terms of companies trying to satisfy their shareholders by downsizing, whether I call it right sizing or downsizing, might just be what will play up in the long run. So we must be careful. But I think government have not so seriousness, because if it's easy for you to say subsidy gone, it should. Almost a year you've been negotiating minimum wage, and then these are public servants. They see some of the numbers that some of these political appointees in terms of funds that are moving their hand within them, and also again a government that is battling minimum wage, saying that the economy will crumble if we have to pay. Then here you are, a government giving about 90 billion naira for actual operation. All these things sometimes add up to when you see labor organization demanding for high wages. I think but 497,000, I don't think is realistic.
I guess maybe that's why we see labor asking for that amount. When you see some of the things the federal government spending on at this time. But let's look at the breaking news we got this morning. CBN revoking the banking license of Heritage Bank. That's a big move right there in the banking industry. How are you seeing that?
Well, I think it has been expected for a while now. I remember there were like 2-3 years ago, the foreman that then the then CBN governor came to debunk it, that said the bank was going into crisis. That's a bank that had been showing a lot of controversy. If you remember that the chairman of that bank also was removed some time ago, and I think the bank has not really come out of its wood. But the good thing is that CBN is intervening. We'll get more information on what these interventions are, because sometimes when this intervention comes into play, sometimes the more you see, the less you understand. And there are a good thing about the Heritage Banking Ladi is that it's not listed in the stock exchange.
Right.
So investors will not suffer losses like they would normally suffer when licenses are revoked, because the CBN will say we are only interested in customers, and once you're an investor, your money has gone down the drain. Luckily, we are not seeing that, and think that is good news for investors. But for the banking space, after CBN have told us time and time again that the financial state is very stable, to get a news like this, that means international investors will not be taking the CBN serious sometime when they make some of those pronouncements.
All right, so what are you seeing for the month of June? This last trading week for May, we did see positive sentiment. Is that going to filter into June?
Well, Ladi, June is always a month that is neither here nor there in the FX market, because at that time investors are putting their eyes waiting for the third quarter result. Second half year results, especially from the banking space, and also some other big conglomerate that pay interim dividends. So the month of June has always been wait and see what happens when those results comes in. So it's slow, but what normally happens in the month of June very much is we see investors looking at bargain hunting in terms of price movement, and then looking at opportunities to take advantage, especially knowing fully well that there will be interim dividend payment in half year. And remember, when you are going through a down economy like what we are going through now, cash become kings, and so investors begin to tilt towards stocks that are paying interim dividend. But again, as it stands now, most of those stocks that are paying interim dividend seems to be averaging in terms of their bottom-up approach. They seem to be average at a particular price. Access Bank opening 17, UBA doing 22, Zenith Bank doing 33, then GTB 39, GTCO 39. So you see those stocks, those companies still within that space. And the only bank they are paying interim dividend that seems to have moved is Fidelity Bank, which is doing almost 10 naira, almost above 10 naira. So outside of that, you keep on seeing investors looking for good entry positions in those equity. But most investors normally key in there when those number comes in. Sometimes those number comes in that in pricing. Sometimes this number comes in, you see a little gradual movement, and sometimes these numbers might just come in and you see that the price will still remain where it is. So investors in the month of June are always doing wait and see.
Right, wait and see at this point, and definitely we'll see how the market closes today. We'll see if industrial action managed to shape investor confidence in the equities market. That's for today. Thank you so much. It was great to have your perspective, Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO Finance with Mukhtar. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Ladi.
All right, that's it from me on Business Morning. We'll definitely get you today's close later with a summary. It's back to the Sunrise Daily team.
Known as a trading hub for agricultural produce and host to oil and gas operations, Cocoa Community appears to be a shadow of its old self as a result of the sealing of the Taurus depot for nearly 6 months. In the community, residents are protesting the shutdown of this depot, which they say has severely impacted local businesses and the economy. According to the protesters, following the closure of the depot, their means of livelihood has been affected.
As we speak, the vessel has an amount they pay to community. For 6 months, there's no money from the community. You can see shops locked up, no trucks here. We have children that are truck drivers. They are not working. As I'm talking to you, they are breaking our entry everywhere in Cocoa. because of this their obnoxious act. So we are appealing to the government, President Ahmed Tinubu and the Minister for Petroleum Resources, those that are in charge, to come and open up this place so that Delta State government should wade into this matter, because this thing is creating problem for us in the community.
At our terminal here, the workers, they say you should sit at home. No salary, because they are waiting for the investigation to finish. And once the investigation is not finished, all of them will be at home without no salary. And it does not good for the workers. Even same thing to Damara and Co. and Greenmark. It is not good. And we are saying they should eradicate poverty and to make sure that the youth are working. But now, see what the people are doing to us. Workers are sitting at home without no salary. It can even create depression among the family members, which is not good.
The depot was locked up when a team from the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority discovered that about 9 out of the 20 million liters of PMS in a cargo was loaded with water. They appealed to President Tinubu to step in so this does not push the people out of business and into criminality.
I want to beg our President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, make he help us stop for this matter. The hungry don't too much. Make the people open this terrace for us. I beg, we just hear you. Hunger they kill us so.
Let them help us open this terrace. Even though they want make they carry the vehicle go, make they open Tarios and Tamara and Greenmark, make they help us open it. Hunger are killing all of us here. Here we come to hustle. We are from now we come from some people from Meduguri, Katina, all of us will come to hustle for here.
For 6 months, investigations have been ongoing without any word from the authorities, with marketers facing financial losses. They are asking the government to consider their plight and restore their livelihood.
All right, so Mr. Chinedu Ogbena joins us here. He is a cargo inspector and marine surveyor. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Good morning, Kayla.
We've seen that report, and this is a matter that has gotten the attention of the ministry, by virtue the minister. So give us a little more background. How did this start in the first place?
The vessel MT Austria arrived at Taros to discharge cargo, and after the discharge, they found out that about 9 million plus.
What did they?
The depot owners and their dippers, because upon intermittent inspections of cargo, they found out that there was water in the tank, and they called for a stop in the discharge. So they also promptly alerted the cargo owner, which is NNPC Retail, and told them about what they discovered. And from there, further inspections went on. I think they also summoned independent cargo inspection companies to come in and ascertain where the problem is coming from. So till today, there has not been a clear resolution as to where the water came from. But every of the cargo inspection companies that came pointed to the fact that there could be only one direction where that water is coming from, which they all say is from the ship.
I need to understand that. So there's a leakage.
No, it's not a leakage.
How did the water get into the PMS from the ship?
Okay, this is where the problem is. It's not a common occurrence, but this one beats everybody. The vessel arrived with cargo 20-point-something million liters. Yeah. They discharged into one tank, first tank one. Tank one is clean cargo, no water, nothing.
In tank one?
Yes. Then they commenced into tank 6. And I'll take you through the process of even this operation.
Okay.
When a vessel comes, the surveyors, which are the marine cargo inspection companies, they go into the ship, take an initial measurement.
No, let's not start from there.
Okay.
Let's go back
Okay.
to when MT Austria received the PMS?
Yes.
So let's start from there. Where did they get it from? Because we can't start it from.
Yeah, they received the product offshore Lagos.
Okay. Offshore Lagos?
Yes.
Okay.
And you know, because of the contract of carriage, it is between NNPC and the owners of the vessel. Taros is taking up this product as per storage on a throughput contract. So Taros' responsibility commences when this cargo enters their tank. So the vessel got into Taros jetty at Cocoa, and preliminary inspections were done. Everybody checked for cargo, checked for water. They also went to the depot. They would check the initial dips, which is to check whether there is product in the tank, also check whether there is water, and they will seal the tanks. There is one line that leads between the vessel and the depot. And that line, the vessel will connect a hose to its own manifold. So it is that line that they discharge the cargo from the vessel to the storage tank at Taros. So when this cargo gets into that place, upon completion, they will now measure what the quantity is at the other end, which is now Taros. So while they were discharging, there is a standard operation that happens in the oil industry. There is intermittent check to forestall overflow of cargo, because if you don't check, sometimes you exceed your level and the cargo will spill off. So they do these things to ensure that cargo do not spill off, and to also see that the cargo that is coming into the storage tank is at least at par with what is being discharged from the vessel. So while they were doing this practice, they now observed that when they brought out their tape, they saw the water dripping off the tape. They now called for a stop.
At what point did they discover this?
They finished cargo discharging to tank 1, then switched over to tank 6.
Okay, so you have 1, 6.
They discharged the tanks that were nominated were 2 tanks.
1 and 6?
1 and 6. 6 has clean cargo. No problem with 6.
It's 1 that has water in it.
I mean, sorry, 1 has clean cargo.
Yeah. Okay.
But 6 is where we have water now.
Okay.
So from where the water came from, the ship has not been able to explain to us till today, because the ship came with full cargo, as they said.
So when they discharged into 1, was it from the same product? No compartmentalization of all of those? The same vessel?
The same vessel, but they have different tanks on the vessel.
Okay.
I think about 10 tanks on that vessel. Okay. So they will discharge
different tanks
while they are maintaining the stability of the vessel. So they pick the tanks they discharge from, and as they are discharging, they are also trying to see that the vessel is ballast. So they finished the one for tank 1. The tank was dipped, no problem. They now switched over to tank 6.
So how many of those did they discover? Was it just while they were trying to enter tank 6? Did they check the entire vessel to see the quantity of water? How did they determine that?
See, that's where the problem is, because under our local operation here, the vessel was not supposed to be discharging and taking ballast. Ballast is the water they are using to balance a vessel. So this is called a simultaneous operation. And it gives room
for contamination. Because while you are taking in that water, you are likely to have a commingling that will contaminate the product at the other end or even in your own vessel. So they started a process of picking water, taking ballast, and that is a possible source of where that water came in. And I think without missing words, that is more likely where that water has come from.
What's the standard practice when this happens? What happens next?
They were supposed to even inform, if they want to take ballast by any means during that this thing.
That's the vessel owners?
The vessel operators. If they wanted to take in ballast, they would have called for the team involved in that inspection. Everybody would be there so that they monitor and see that this water is not going into any tank.
Okay, so we're seeing where the balls started dropping.
Yes.
I want to be able to find out at the time when I said you, at the time when this was discovered, of course, we shut down the place. Investigations have to begin. At this point in the investigations, what has been said by NNPCL or by the ship operators, by any of the parties involved? What's been said right now? Because what we're seeing is that the economy of that place is being affected.
Seriously.
Now, it's only natural that those who survive off of this economy, of that jetty, would of course cry out. Their lives are in danger right now. But the solution, though, has to come up first. I'm guessing that's what the issue is.
Yeah.
So what has been said by any of the parties involved as of today?
From the regulator themselves, they quickly shut down the depot, which is a travesty because the depot actually alerted everybody to this huge fraud, I will call it. Because if it were issue of just only water, we would be seeing the cargo in another area of the tank. But for some reason, the water came in and there was no cargo to be traced anywhere.
The basically just filled. Yeah, the basically just filled top of water.
Wait. Let me try and follow this conversation as carefully as I can.
Yeah.
Because when you say it's fraud, and then they were taking ballast, water could commingle while discharging. So, are you suggesting then that when they discharged tank 1, this vessel didn't have enough of PMS, and then they took in ballast to give the impression that there was confusion, and then they contaminated the PMS products, or they didn't come with enough PMS, or what exactly?
From what I gathered, products were dipped on arrival. They got a figure. That figure shows 20 point something million liters of PMS. And the inspectors themselves are not the ones that go and take samples for that product. So they did...
Who takes samples?
There are chemists that comes to pick samples from that place and go and analyze. So
why can't inspectors be with the chemists at the same time so everybody's on the same page?
They come. Everybody has his own duty.
Okay.
So they picked the samples and went for analysis. But the surveyors now started. There's what they call a UTI. It's used for the measurement of cargo. When it hits product, it makes a sound. If it hits water,
give it a sound.
It gives another sound. So I assume, because I can't also phantom why everybody will measure, because that measurement will include the regulator, which is NMDPRA. It will include a member of the DSS on ground, that place. It will include the cargo owner representative. It will include the ship owner bringing in a surveyor. These people are all there on ground. So it beats my imagination how that measurement will be done and complete cargo is seen on board. The only explanation I can give to that is that there is a deliberate, because that UTI has a switch. If you switch to the liquid mode, it starts detecting water. And some of them, after some time, the operators of that thing, they can jam it. Or when they switch it off, you assume that you are checking for water. But if there is no sound, the inspectors will not record water because there is no sound. Because that could only be the explanation. Because they all recorded nil water. And there cannot be 10 million, 9 million plus water in a tank. And you won't detect using the UTI.
So, when this, because everybody assumes, layman, if you're bringing in a product to the country, there certainly will be certification from origin to ensure that this is in there. Don't they pass it down to the authorities here who will then ascertain and certify that, yes, okay, we received your document, it's coming through. After which, when it comes there, you then do your checks. Did that happen, or no, when you just come in, that's when you do your checks?
No. There will be a history. This now, I'll be speaking as just a professional in the field. There is a certificate of origin that is issued after loading. It tells where that cargo is coming from and everything. There's a cargo manifest that comes in. So, and as you know, those things, this cargo is for NNPC retail. If it were Taros cargo, for example, Taros would have gotten those information on the first hand. They'll be having those documents. And of course, from what I gathered, this cargo wasn't supposed to come to Taros anyway. It was a last minute diversion. Because normally they have about 2 weeks heads up.
How many days heads up did Taros have?
I think this is less than 2 days or a day. Even the whole depot operation, from my investigation, we're not even aware there was going to be a cargo coming to their depot.
Why do you think that was the case?
I don't know. Maybe it was from them. It was a last minute this thing. But the whole issue is that where is the cargo that got displaced with this water? If water gets into the tank, there should be a source where the water is coming from. And that product that was displaced by water should be somewhere.
So Taros didn't see this.
So there's no cargo.
There's no cargo didn't get to.
Just water.
Water. And Taros depot was properly sealed. Because when the vessel comes, the inspectors from the shipper or the owners of the cargo has an inspector that comes in. They will check your storage tanks, check everything, check for quantity if you have any quantity there. They check for water if they have, so that they know that if they put their own product there, they can just minus the total volume from the old one, and they know which is their own volume. But these seals were still there before and after. One line leading to the vessel, the hose connecting the vessel, and water came into those tanks. I heard some people talk about the possibilities of water coming from the depot. I say that's just a flimsy argument, because the pumps in a depot cannot deliver that volume of liquid in 4 days, in 5 days.
You're convinced this is fraud.
It's fraud. It's fraud. There's no doubt about it.
What happens next? Because this is where we are.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Under the contract, the law of carriage, the contract of carriage, you have custody transfer at the heart of it. The ship responsibility for discharging this product ends where the consignee, which is NNPC, has told them this is where I want my cargo to enter. And that place is Taros Depot. Taros Depot has received product that has water. And I think Taros, by virtue of their own contract of storage, if they minus the cargo they have from the water, that is what NNPC pays them as a cargo they have to store. Taros contract starts from that point. So it beats my imagination why I heard that, when I heard that Taros was shut down. Taros is not cargo owner. Taros is not the carrier of the product. And the place was shut down.
So not that Taros was not prepared since they had 2 days notice, which is contrary to the standard operating procedure.
Yes, Taros has more than enough capacity to carry even another of that quantity. The capacity is not a problem. How the vessel managed to start pumping water and displace this product.
Okay, so we're wrapping up. For you,
yeah,
what do you think are the issues to be determined here?
The issues to be determined here is that is to determine where the water came from, which I think there's a lot of work that has gone into that.
By who? Taros or the consignee?
I see that 3 inspection companies were engaged.
Okay.
And they've started looking at the source of water. And I think those reports are out, if I'm not mistaken.
They were engaged by the NNDPRA?
NNPC engaged some,
okay,
which is the owner of the cargo.
Okay.
And of course, Taros doing their own due diligence would have engaged some other of them. So
that's one issue.
That's one issue to be determined. The other issue is to ask the vessel, how come they were discharging and taking in ballast at the same time?
You think it was deliberate?
It's deliberate. If they had to do that, they had to call all the teams involved in that inspection before they could start anything like that. I know it helps them for their turnaround time, but in normal operation, it's a breach. You don't do that because it could lead to contamination. And in this case, we now had water coming into those tanks.
So 2 issues.
2 issues. Number 3, I think the issue concerning the closure of the depot should be looked at again, because even the enabling laws creating the NMDPRO, which is the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021, gives guidelines. And those guidelines outlines the powers and the responsibilities of NNDPRA. And one of those responsibilities is to promote business in the industry. I don't see why shutting down of a depot for 6 months constitutes promotion of business. Taros in itself and the other 4 depots that are affected, mind you, it's not just Taros, because immediately you block that jetty, you cut out 4 depots from operation. So 4 of those depots, no ones are going to be having cargo. And the combined total of their capacity could be exceeding 150 million liters of product. And so, that is what is being short in the shortage in the market.
So if this were the case, does that then mean that from, irrespective of the manifest from the origin, it is actually possible for them to come in with this kind of product, and that they certify from origin that it has appropriate products?
I don't want to go into conjecture, but I know even if they load clean products from source, because that vessel did not come straight up.
Oh, there were diversions?
It could have been diverted. I don't want to say, and if they came in with it, I don't know whether these inspectors have access to the double bottom tanks of those that vessel. Because if the product actually came in there are two ways the product could leave. Either this bunkering people come around and the vessel after this problem, because now the attention has been off the vessel, they could be dispensing those products to those smaller vessels, or it's still in the double bottom tank, which nobody have access to now because it's a PMS. You can't enter those void spaces now to assess them.
Well, let's not forget, in this same country, guys, we've had bad products come into this country, which was supposed to have been investigated some years ago. I think I lost it. Was there any report?
I don't think so.
Okay. So, Captain Chinedu Ogbena is a marine inspector, marine surveyor and cargo inspector. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Chamberlain.
Labour has embarked on their strike. As a matter of fact, ASU have also put up a statement saying that their affiliate union and their zonal coordinators should go ahead and join the strike. So ASU has also joined this strike, and you know the implications of that. Well, there you go. That is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. Who knows if the strike will be over, but can only hope. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Have a great day ahead. Stay safe. Don't let anything get you down. I know that for many people right now, they're wondering what is going to happen, but take it easy, all right? Just take it easy, stay safe, and try to have a great week ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.
Hello, it's nice to have you join us. You're watching News Track and Channels Television. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Our top stories making the rounds at this time. Labour unions are made through their threat to embark on a nationwide strike today, as no fewer than 15 unions that are affiliates of the Nigeria Labour Congress, that's the NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, the TUC, have directed their members to fully comply with the directives to down tools beginning from today. Some of these circulars cited by our Labour correspondent include those from the Medical and Health Workers Union, the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria, and the National Union of Food, Beverage and Tobacco Employees, which all directed members to fully enforce the industrial action. Memos from the education sector directing same compliance came from the College of Education Academic Staff Union, the Senior Staff Association of Nigeria Universities, the Nigeria Union of Teachers, and the Senior Staff Association of Nigeria Polytechnics, as members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, also mobilized for the strike. Members of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association, PENGASSN, has also asked its members nationwide to down tools. The organized labor representatives in the ongoing negotiation for a new minimum wage, namely the NLC and the TUC, had on Friday declared a nationwide indefinite strike following disagreements in the negotiations for a new minimum wage for workers. The two labor centers also cited the refusal of government to reverse the recent hike in the price of electricity tariff as additional reason for the strike. And already Nigerians are feeling the impact of that strike as the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, has announced the complete shutdown of the country's power grid by the labor unions. Announcing the shutdown of the national power grid in a statement by the TCN spokesperson Ndidi Mba, the transmission firm said the action was done by the workers. The statement reads in part, "The Transmission Company of Nigeria hereby informs the general public that the labor union has shut down the national grid, resulting in a blackout nationwide. The national grid shutdown occurred at about 2:19 a.m. this morning, June the 3rd. So let's now bring you highlights of the NLC and TUC strike from different parts of the country. Here in Lagos, the strike is taking full effect as government offices are shut. In Alausa, where most state government offices are located, workers are locked out and business activities grounded. We also observed that the roads are less busy for a Monday morning in Nigeria's commercial nerve center. Fumi Sesi, the chairman, Nigeria Labour Congress, Lagos State Chapter, says the union is out to ensure compliance to the directive issued by its directive issued by the executives. Staying in Lagos, aviation workers also picketed the domestic wing of the Murtala Mohammed Airport, and no flights were allowed to take off.
The gate is locked, as you can see. No movement, nothing. This is MM2 gate, locked by labor union.
Still in the southwest, in Ogun State, the Federal Secretariat at Abuja, the Ogun State capital, is under lock and key as the workers stayed away from office in compliance with the directives of the national leaderships of both the NLC and the TUC.
Our point is they have to come to the table. We, the labor movement, we are organized. The two labor centers are organized. Yes. And we put all what we have as to the field surveillance on table for federal government. Yeah. Until after 6 weeks, then they are coming up with 40-something thousand naira. It is uncalled for. As I'm talking to you, go with the recent palliative and other, exigencies of payment in the federal. The least worker is taking over 100,000. Yes, Nigerian populace are waiting for living wage. Everybody now, we are waiting for the pronouncement and the declaration of right for the President of the Republic to announce the living wage. Because I want to tell you, it is on living wage that every soul will live on. Solidarity forever, for the union is so strong. Solidarity.
At the Port Harcourt Airport, the strike by Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria FAN is in full swing, with the National Union of Air Transport Employees, NOATE, blocking access into the airport for vehicles. Passengers were forced to come down and walk into the airport. The chairman of the Rivers State chapter of the Association of Nigerian Aviation Professionals, Emmanuel Akaga, explains why passengers are still being allowed to come into the airport.
There is victory for all.
In Imo State, NLC officials locked out civil servants at the state secretariat in Owerri, the Imo State capital. Over in Edo State, members of the NLC and the TUC locked up the state secretariat, shutting out civil servants from the complex in compliance with the union's directive. The unions there say even though the state government recently increased the state's minimum wage to 70,000 naira, they had to comply with the national body's directive, maintaining that the strike is not targeted at the state.
We got a directive from the national headquarters, NSC and PUC, to proceed on indefinite strike over two issues. One is to address the minimum wage of workers, and two is the reversal of tariff of electricity. So there are two major issues that we are here for. And you can see for yourself that the secretariat is completely closed and others. Even airports and so many other places have been closed and shut down. For now, it's already 80% compliance. This is the federal secretary, state secretary, federal secretary has come in, personal lock and key.
In the northern part of the country, starting from the nation's capital, the strike is in full effect at the Federal Secretariat in Abuja as workers were not allowed into the premises. In Kaduna, students of the Kaduna Polytechnic have been locked out of their campus by the labor officials in compliance with the directive by labor unions. Some students of the Polytechnic condemned the action of the labor unions, asking both the labor and the federal governments to return to the negotiating table.
Some students are spending 1,000, 2,000 naira to come to the school, and they spend it for nothing. They came to school today and nothing is happening. The NLC used the opportunity, I would say that, use the opportunity because we are neighbors, their office is close by the school, and lock our gates not to enter the school. While the management of Kaduna Polytechnic is yet to conclude that we are going for the strike or not. It is a very bad experience, honestly, and we urge the Nigerian Labour Congress and the federal government also to go on a negotiation table to resolve this issue.
Meanwhile, the Kaduna State TUC chairman, Abdullahi Dan Fulani, says there is total compliance to the strike by all the affiliate unions of the two labor unions. He says the strike will continue until the federal government does the needful. At the State Secretariat in the Kaduna State capital, where about 7 ministries are located, workers were locked outside of the gate by the labor union leaders.
The major stakeholders, the key offices in Kaduna have been shut down. Some of our members are there running around to enforce the directives of our national. When government do the needful, we are pressing for many things, but two are prominent. One, the issue of minimum wage that has been lingering over since April. No resolution has been reached. The second one is the hike in the tariff of electricity. We want them to revert back to the former 165 kilowatts.
Now, before today's strike, there was some last-minute attempt by the leadership of the National Assembly to avert the industrial action. The lawmakers were with the leaders of the two labor unions on Sunday for over 4 hours with other top government functionaries. At the end of the meeting, however, the labor leaders announced that it does not have the powers to call off the scheduled industrial action, promising to take the plea of the leadership of the National Assembly to their various organs. Mizoke reports.
5. The leadership of the National Assembly arrives at the NAS complex on the eve of the commencement of a planned industrial action by the leadership of the organized labor in what is apparently a last-minute effort to avert an indefinite industrial action. The The federal lawmakers are concerned about the consequences of the strike and the collateral damage it would bring.
We are also on the side of the people. We are on your side, but we must also be mindful of collateral damage. I don't want us to, in the course of trying to arrive at minimum wage, we end up with a lot of serious issues of unemployment. Because as soon as we arrive at a minimum wage, we will expect the private sector to also adhere. And then if they are unable to do so, the next thing will be retrenchment of workers.
This emergency meeting is among others held with the labor leaders, all in a desperate move to halt the strike.
We are quite committed to finding a way forward, finding a living wage, finding a survival wage, and not starvation wage for Nigerians.
Things have been really difficult. In the last 1 year, that difficulty has even further exacerbated. And that is why this year's minimum wage conversation is a bit tough and it's a bit difficult.
The meeting later dissolves into a closed door, lasting almost 4 hours before a decision is reached.
As at the last meeting, we were very, very close to signing off. I mean, close in the sense that if the figures were right, it's just to prepare a report and sign. So it's not something that is that lengthy anymore. But we have listened to them. We would take all their plea to our organs. And we would have an organs meeting taking what they have promised and the pleas that they have made to our organs. For now, we don't have the powers to call off the industrial action, so the industrial action will continue while we would have a conversation with our respective organs as soon as possible.
If they are having problem with the executive, the Senate President has said that he is going to wage in. He's going to talk to the President, the entire leadership of the National Assembly will talk to the President on the present situation of the agreed amount by the federal government and the state governments and the organized private sector to pay 60,000. They will come back to federal government, and in turn, we expect that labor will see reason and call off the strike.
The labor leaders say they are resolute in their quest to improve the living wage of Nigerian workers. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
When we come back on News Track, ECOWAS allocates $9 million to aid the survival of refugees and IDPs in its member states. Please join us again.
How does double digits affect your purchasing power? What about ballooning debt profile and scarce FX? How's that affecting your business?
The federal government is turning to the money market to fund this deficit. Are yields contracting or expanding? Is this a good buy for you?
Inflation drives MPC decisions and affects sentiment at the equities markets. What is happening to your investment?
Or would you rather go digital? We track all the volatility in the crypto market.
Get the answers from the business team every weekday at 1 p.m. on Business Incorporated, only on Channels Television.
Welcome back. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has allocated $9 million to aid refugees, internally displaced persons, and stateless individuals in its member nations. Nigeria received $1 million to assist terrorism victims in the northeast part of the country. This information was disclosed by Musa Nuhu, the chair of the ECOWAS Permanent Representative Committee, during the 2024 ECOWAS Ambassadors Retreat. This event, held in partnership with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, took place in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. Our correspondent Deborah Agbalama reports.
This year's retreat, organized by the UNHCR and ECOWAS, has in attendance ECOWAS ambassadors with the theme Enhancing Protection for Refugees, IDPs, and Stateless Persons in West Africa and Finding Solutions to Forced Displacements. In their opening remarks, the organizers emphasized the need to address forced displacements caused by violence, political instability, and climate change. Discussions also highlighted the recent alliance of Sahel states, AES, by Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, and their withdrawal from ECOWAS.
It is now the opportunity to call the attention of the humanitarian situation in the Sahel, in the Lake Basin for part of it, but also in West Africa.
Speaking to journalists, the organizers explained the efforts taken in the West African region by the United Nations and ECOWAS in the protection and provision for refugees and IDPs.
ECOWAS has provided $1 million for victims of terrorism in the northeastern Nigeria, and the steering committee has been set up by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs to see how they will disperse those funds through the whole program on the Red Cross.
Highlighting the sufferings of refugees and displaced persons, Ehini Vera Vuese, a Cameroonian refugee representing refugees in the South Nigeria, urged donors to continue their support.
An appeal from UNHCR and all the ambassadors from ECOWAS and all the well-wishers that have been donating to support the refugees, they should have pity on the refugees. The refugees are going through a lot. There is hunger in the settlement, there is starvation, there is hardship. They should at least find a means in which they can help the refugees in